Okay, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Excellencies, distinguished colleagues, participants. Welcome to the event today, launching the publication entitled Good Practices in South-South and Triangular Cooperation in the Least Developed Countries, from the Istanbul Program of Action to Achieving Sustainable and Resilient Development. This publication is developed jointly by the United Nations Office for South-South Cooperation, hosted in UNDP, the United Nations Capital Development Fund, and the United Nations Office of the High Representative for LDCs, LLDCs, and Cs, in partnership with the Qatar Fund for Development. Tomorrow, we will embark on a historic journey as the member states consider and hopefully adopt the Doha Program of Action for the Least Developed Countries, DPOA. It is very important and timely to take stock and reflect on the good practices and the important complementary role of South-South cooperation in supporting LDCs in the implementation of the Istanbul Program of Action to inform our enhanced global partnership and our collective journey ahead. So today, while we share, celebrate, and reflect on the 80 good practices among many more from LDCs, along with their partner countries through South-South and Triangular Cooperation, let me have the great honor to invite our eminent speakers to ignite the light. First of all, I have the honor to invite Ms. Nancy Temple, Honorable Minister of Foreign Affairs of Malawi, Chair of the Group of LDCs, for her opening remarks. Your Excellency, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. Mr. Akim Steiner, Administrator of UNDP, Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Greetings once again. I'm very pleased to deliver opening remarks at today's high-level launch event. As chair of Least Developed Countries, Malawi has been steadfast in our support for the preparatory process of the 5th UN Conference on the LDC at this extraordinary time. Excellencies, more than 2 years into the COVID-19 pandemic, despite unimaginable challenges, we have jointly built a strong momentum in support of LDC's efforts in addressing the impacts of the COVID-19 and achieving sustainable and resilient development. The COVID-19 pandemic has had far-reaching health, economic, and social impacts on LDCs. It has not only reversed some progress made during the implementation of the Istanbul Program of Action, but has also exacerbated persistent challenges in LDCs. LDCs will likely take much longer time to return to the pre-pandemic level. More than ever before, LDCs need enhanced global partnership, including effective South-South and triangular cooperation, to return to a pathway to achieve the sustainable development goals and achieve a quick, inclusive, equitable, and sustainable recovery from the pandemic. Excellencies, the 5th UN Conference on LDCs takes place in the most unprecedented circumstances in which LDCs are facing mounting challenges with heightened vulnerability at multiple levels. In the past decade, Major advances were made by LDCs in several key areas such as access to information and communication technology, sustainable energy, health, education, gender, and governance. However, progress was uneven across LDCs. While progress has been made towards graduation, there are significant challenges to ensure sustainable and irreversible graduation. Critical gaps remain where the LDC as a group have fallen short of meeting the targets set out by the Istanbul Programme of Action. In the decade of the Istanbul Programme of Action, LD scaled up South-South cooperation to strengthen institutional capacities while intensifying experience sharing and exchange of good practices. They successfully leveraged South-South cooperation to mobilize development finance, promote technological transfer, and build human capital. Some Southern partners have become important trading partners of LDCs. Excellencies, as LDCs are poised to achieve a resilient, sustainable, and inclusive recovery, it is imperative to unleash the potential of South-South and triangular cooperation in critical areas of sustainable development. LDCs need the full contribution and cooperation of all development partners, both from the North and the South, to build more resilient economies and equitable societies and achieve technology and digital leapfrogging. Tomorrow in New York, LDCs and their development partners will consider a new program of action for the next 10 years. The Doha Program of Action is a new global compact designed to support rapid recovery from the pandemic, build resilience against future shocks, eradicate extreme poverty, and enable the graduation and attainment of the SDGs in LDCs. This new blueprint for development for LDCs embodies a new generation of partnership and renewed commitment of the global community, including development partners from the North and the South. Excellencies, the new program of action calls for development partners to take tangible steps to support LDCs and to reach the farthest behind first. South-South and triangular cooperation is of vital importance for LDCs in order to accelerate progress towards the SDGs and attain the goals and targets of the new program of action. LDCs need to effectively leverage South-South and triangular cooperation to make strides in critical areas of sustainable development, such as development finance, trade and investment, human capital development, infrastructure development, energy transition, and institution building, and build resilience against future shocks, including climate change. To conclude, I commend the efforts of the United Nations Office of High Representative for Least Developed Countries, the UN Office for South-South Cooperation, United Nations Capital Development Fund, and the Qatar Fund for Development in compiling good practices in South-South and triangular cooperation in LDCs in the implementation of the IPOA. This collection of impactful initiatives will promote experience sharing and peer learning amongst LDCs. It also demonstrates the strength and vitality of genuine partnerships between LDCs and their development partners from the global South. Excellencies, I wish today's launch a great success. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, Foreign Minister Campbell, for your visionary remarks highlighting the priorities of LDCs, calling on a new generation of the global partnership, including the important role of South-South cooperation. Thank you very much. Now I have the great honor to invite Mr. Achim Stanner, Under Secretary General and Administrator of the United Nations Development Programme, for his opening remarks. Mr. Stanner, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Grace, and warm greetings to Her Excellency Minister Tembo. Thank you for your very kind introductory remarks, and also by being chair of the group of LDCs to grace the launch of today's publication, which we greatly appreciate. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it is a privilege for me to join the launch of this publication that focuses on good practices in South-South and triangular cooperation in least developed countries. It is a significant knowledge product, given that LDCs is where the Sustainable Development Goals will be, in a sense, won or lost. As we aim towards the Doha Programme of Action for LDCs, the publication does pinpoint innovative, homegrown, and transformative solutions that can, in some instances, have already been scaled up. Indeed, the immense value of South-South and triangular cooperation has come to the fore during the COVID-19 pandemic. Developing countries have been supporting each other in critical areas, from sending healthcare workers to bridge capacity gaps, to cooperating in science, technology, and innovation, to sharing doses of the vaccine. And Southern-led development banks provided critical liquidity to support LDCs to address the socioeconomic impacts of the pandemic that I think we always have to remind ourselves are in fact still with us, very much so in LDCs in particular. The challenge now is to build on this new momentum to ensure that LDCs can build forward better from this pandemic and be part of a global green recovery, which is part of the broader landscape in which the global economy, but also each one of our countries, is now challenged and looking for ways forward. The 80 good practices featured in this publication demonstrate practical ways to advance this aim. One can read them in many ways, but I would say that 3 transitions stand out from this publication, which also reflect some of the main challenges and opportunities faced by LDCs at this moment. First, the green transition through sustainable planning and investment, food systems and land use management, circular water management, and clean and smart energy solutions. Second, the urban transition to transform cities into inclusive, sustainable, and resilient places where everyone can benefit from economic growth, access to transport, housing, water and sanitation, and green spaces. And third, the potential to drive forward local economic development, including through the adoption of digital technologies, a great variable in every country's consideration about the future of development today. I would also like to highlight just a sample of the good practices contained in the report. Consider the Sahel region, where climate change represents a severe threat to the livelihoods of more than 80% of the population living in rural areas. It has also placed additional stress on the region's fragility, increasing displacement and migration. Yet the Sahel is one of the world's regions with the highest amounts of sunlight, with partners including the African Development Bank, the Green Climate Fund, the European Commission. The Desert to Power initiative aims to harness that solar energy to generate 10 gigawatts of additional capacity to provide clean electricity for 250 million people via public, private, grid and off-grid projects by 2030. Or look to a trilateral project between Ethiopia, China and Sri Lanka that is promoting the use of biogas, biomass and solar technologies. This UNDP-supported project aims to bring access to renewable energy to communities across Ethiopia, powering homes, hospitals and schools, and open up an immense array of opportunities in the form of jobs and livelihoods. Or reflect on the UN Capital Development Fund Policy Accelerator Program, which is collaborating with central banks in more than 20 LDCs in Africa, Asia, and the Pacific to create the conditions in which digital financial services can benefit everyone. That includes supporting key policy reforms for digital transformation, tailored to the needs of women and young people, including the rollout of innovative savings products and credit. Indeed, the South-South triangular sharing of knowledge on innovative finance solutions, such as blended finance vehicles that target the last mile and SDG bonds, will be key to unlocking game-changing levels of finance for LDCs. Or finally, consider Bangladesh, where a groundbreaking initiative has provided over 310,000 young people with training to develop their skills in key areas like ICT. As part of these efforts, a new online platform matches job seekers with employers. This initiative is now being replicated through South-South exchanges in Jordan, and Somalia, just to mention a few examples. These good practices will also be available on the South-South Galaxy, vital digital knowledge sharing platform. Honorable Minister, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, while a growing number of countries are moving closer towards graduation from the LDC category, critical gaps remain, where we have fallen short of meeting the targets set out by the Istanbul Programme of Action, something that the Honorable Minister already referred to. As we embark on the Doha Programme of Action, it is imperative that we examine new and innovative ways to boost South-South and triangular cooperation, including the vital financing solutions we need to unlock the immense potential of LDCs. Without finance, a lot of what we discuss will simply remain hypothetical. In this respect, I would like to commend the United Nations Office for South-South Cooperation, which we proudly host in UNDP, as well as the United Nations Capital Development Fund and the United Nations Office of the High Representative for LDCs, LLDCs, and Small Island Developing States for developing this important publication. I would also like to express my gratitude to the Qatar Fund for Development for their crucial support to this report. The UN family and its many close partners have an unwavering commitment to provide practical support that LDCs now need. And I also remind us of the BAPA Plus 40 event, and I know that Her Excellency, the Permanent Representative of Argentina, has joined us. We have an agenda, and we also have proof, and we have evidence, and we have an incredible source of opportunities in which South-South and triangular cooperation truly can make a difference. Together, I believe we are co-creating a greener, more inclusive, and more sustainable future for all. Thank you so much. Back to you, Grace.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Administrator, for your important remarks, highlighting and citing concrete solutions from this publication. Indeed, these are the invaluable knowledge as the real asset that, if shared, can really generate the power of knowledge to support sustainable development. Thank you very much. With that, I would like to invite His Excellency Khalifa Jassim Al-Kuwari, Director General, Qatar Fund for Development, a very important partner for us today, from the hosting country of the LDC 5 conference. His Excellency will provide his remarks via a video recorded message. Yes, Raphael, I think the video stopped. Yes.
Excellencies and distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we would like to express our warmest gratitude to all joining us today to witness the launch of the good practices in South-South and triangular cooperation in least development countries that reflects the most comprehensive assessments of humanitarian needs around the world. We highly acknowledge the support of the Istanbul Programme of Action to achieve the sustainable and resilience development that has accelerated actions toward the achievement of the 2030 Agenda for the Sustainable Development Goals. As we all gather on this important day, a crisis continues to grow over many countries around the world. Conflicts, climate change, and COVID-19 have created the greatest burden on humanity, and particularly affecting the most vulnerable communities and derailing years of progress of the SDGs. The struggle to eradicate poverty has massively increased, resulting in disempowering individuals to contribute effectively toward peace building. Since the establishment of the Qatar Fund for Development, our focus was on the development sectors, focusing on human development. Representing the state of Qatar, the fund is proud to be a core investor in the UNDP Accelerator Lab network that targets more than 90 countries in supporting innovative solutions to overcome challenges and struggles. We emphasize to build inclusive, sustainable, and resilient practices that contribute to community development. As we move forward to address South-South issues, the state of Qatar, under His Highness the Emir Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, announced and pledged to support small developing island states and the least developed countries to combat natural hazards and environmental challenges through adaptations and mitigation mechanisms. We therefore carry our sincere efforts within the end of March toward Doha Forum, where we take this opportunity to further mobilize our effort, resources, and extend a hand to overcome the crisis in these unprecedented times. Thank you.
Many thanks for Qatar Fund for Development for the important partnership, and thank you for the visionary remarks. Now I have the pleasure, along with our partners, UNCDF, UNOHR-LLS, and Qatar Fund for Development, in launching this important and timely publication, Good Practices in South-Southern Triangular Cooperation in Least Developed Countries, from the Istanbul Program Action to Achieving Sustainable and Resilient Development. This newly developed publication is available in English and French and can be downloaded from websites of UNOSSC, UNOHR-LS, UNCDF, and Qatar Foundation, as well as the global digital platform, South-South Galaxy, where you can find over 800 good practices in South-South and triangular cooperation across all SDGs. Now, to mark this launch, please join me in watching this short video highlighting this publication.
"2021 marked a historic juncture for the world's least developed countries, the end of the Istanbul Program of Action, and 50 years since the establishment of the LDC category. This offers a critical opportunity to take stock of the good practices and success stories in scaling up South-South and triangular cooperation for the implementation of the IPOA and the SDGs. Elevating these practices can facilitate their replication to support the LDCs in tackling development challenges. Good practices in South-South and triangular cooperation and LDCs, from the Istanbul Program of Action to Achieving Sustainable and Resilient Development, showcases over 80 such good practices from UN member states, UN entities, and development partners. These good practices illustrate the central tenets of effective South-South and triangular cooperation, address transnational development challenges, and highlight solutions that have had tangible development outcomes in LDCs towards achieving the IPOA priority areas and the SDGs. For instance, in East Africa, UN agencies in partnership with the Kokonko district government developed a cross-border market for women from Burundi and Tanzania to trade and exchange ideas towards improving their livelihoods and security and promoting regional economic cooperation. The Accelerator Lab network, supported by the Qatar Fund for Development, is harnessing Southern intelligence to develop local solutions, such as using big data for waste management in Lao PDR in Tanzania and mapping grassroots innovations to COVID-19 responses in Guinea-Bissau. The Côte d'Ivoire, Liberia, Sierra Leone, Guinea Interconnection Project is creating a shared, reliable regional electricity market to facilitate economic growth, alleviate poverty, and consolidate peace. With 93% of the project now completed, this is contributing to the sustainable development of industries and improving the quality of life. Since 2016, Indonesia's capacity building program has been enhancing the development of small and medium enterprises in 7 LDCs in the Asia region. This is promoting Southern perspectives towards sustainable industrialization and innovation in LDCs and beyond. These good practices are available on South-South Galaxy, a one-stop shop for Southern partners to share and access knowledge and connect with other partners. Join us in making the Doha Program of Action for LDCs a reality.
Well, nowadays we go digital, so knowledge is at our fingertip. You can see from the video, we no longer hold a publication at hand, launching it, feeling its weight. Yet the intellectual weight of the publication is carried by the use of the knowledge it contained and the impact it has on livelihood, on people. So today we would like to, after this distinguished opening session, distinguished speakers for the opening session, now we would like to learn from our very distinguished panel from the governments of Bhutan, Togo, Chile, Morocco, Tanzania, Indonesia, the Gambia, and Mauritania to share their good practices featured in this publication. I would like to encourage all speakers to keep the time within 5 minutes. And first of all, I would like to invite His Excellency Ukien Dorji, Minister for Home and Cultural Affairs, Royal Government of Bhutan, to present the good practices in Bhutan, including on local climate adaptive living facility, local. Your Honorable Minister, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I thank the organizers for the opportunity to share Bhutan's perspectives on South-South triangular cooperation in LDCs, particularly on our experience in implementing the local climate adaptive living facility, in short, LOCAL. I congratulate UNOSSC, UNCDF, OHRLLS, and Qatar Fund for the launch of this valuable report, which will enrich discussions at the 5th UN Conference on Least Developed Countries. The first part of the LDC 5 will be convened tomorrow in New York. Bhutan warmly welcomes the Doha Program of Action, a 10-year roadmap for the LDCs, which provides a roadmap for countries as we emerge from the pandemic and begin rebuilding our economies. We are at a critical juncture, Excellencies, when LDCs, including Bhutan, face unprecedented pressures as a result of the climate and biodiversity crisis exacerbated by the COVID-19 pandemic. Under these circumstances, it's more critical than ever that we promote and implement further technical cooperation and collaboration amongst developing countries under the South-South and Triangular Cooperation Framework. The local facility initiated and implemented in Bhutan is now shared and under implementation in some 30 countries across Africa, Asia and the Pacific, and the Caribbean to support adaptation to climate change. Across our varied and distinct national circumstances, local facility effectively responds to our shared challenges and specific national needs. So, how does local work? Local's innovative application of performance-based climate resilience grants ensures that the subnational governments can work with their communities to finance locally led adaptation actions that meets the needs of the local areas as they are being experienced by the people living on the climate change front lines. Since 2011 in Bhutan, local governments, or GEOPs as they are called here in Bhutan, have taken more than 350 small-scale projects. A large number of the grants were invested in the improvement of farm roads and bridges, irrigation systems, rural water supply schemes, and mitigation of landslide and flood risks. Some of the grants were also invested in the promotion of new crop varieties, sustainable land management practices, alternative energy, and diversification of agricultural livelihoods. All the investments were delivered after consultation and with the input from the communities. The PBCRGs, the grants, have proven to be effective and transferring adaptation finance directly to the Dzongkhaks and Gyeoks, the local governments in Bhutan, and in providing an incentive for the local governments to mainstream climate change adaptation actions at the local level. Using existing government systems and procedures with limited additional requirements has improved efficiency in spending and allowed for low transaction costs while creating strong local ownership. The grants integrate into nationally determined contributions and national adaptation plans, enabling the LDCs and developing nations across the global south to meet their commitments under the Paris Agreement. This is crucial, as climate change can only be addressed through the concerted effort of all the world's nations, big or small, rich or poor. Local is notable in the climate adaptation sphere, as it is a mechanism that is owned by the implementing countries through the local board. Every country designing or implementing their local actions has a seat on the board, creating a virtuous circle of experience sharing, learning, and cooperation. The shared learning is cemented through the local ministerial meeting, an annual event that follows the board and provides valuable space for ministers applying local to come together and share their experiences, but also talk about shared challenges and possible opportunities for joint action and cooperation to tackle those challenges. Another joint South-South action is our work on locals International Organization for Standardization, ISO, certification. This aims to ensure consistent, standardized, and quality assured use and application of the local mechanism for all existing and future Southern partners applying the mechanism. A working group has been set up under the ISO Technical Committee, overseeing standards on greenhouse gas management and related activities to support the development of local into an international standard, ISO 14093. Bhutan is proud to be on the local ISO Experts Committee, alongside other experienced representatives and experts from national and local governments in Benin, Cambodia, the Gambia, and Niger. Excellencies, as we look ahead to COP27, we call for more climate finance for adaptation, using the local mechanism and greater South-South cooperation so that we can strengthen our position and build our resilience to climate change. This is a crisis, and we need to respond appropriately with speed, with resources, and with innovation. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Honorable Minister. Thank you very much for introducing this example, and it shows through South-South in triangular cooperation, especially I'm happy to learn the UN CDF support, the local can be global. Thank you so much for introducing this experience. Now, let me move on to, I think our speaker from Togo is not yet here. So let's shift the order a little bit. I would like to invite His Excellency Bilenko Skoknik Tapia, Ambassador and Permanent Representative of Chile, to present the good practice on promoting of youth micro entrepreneurship in sustainable agricultural products in Southern Haiti. Ambassador, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I don't have a video, unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, who knows, but I'm here connected to all of you, and thank you. Thank you very much for providing the opportunity to Chile to express what we have done here. But first of all, as well, gratitude to the organizers, to this wonderful publication that we have seen, and including what Chile has done, and also to all our colleagues of the LDCs countries that we support so much. Briefly, in this short minutes, as you said, this is was a promotion, it's a project promoting micro enterprises of young people from the region of Southern Haiti in sustainable agricultural products. And this was conducted by the Chilean International Agency for Cooperation and Development, also with another Chilean agency, the Fund for Solidarity and Social Investment. Let me say some of the few pillars that were important for the project. First, the continuity of the project and to the country's commitment. You know, we have been in the last 2 years with the COVID, and so that produced a lot of interruptions in how to manage the project. But anyway, the commitment was there, not only from our part, but also from the part of the Haitian participants and all that. So I think that is very important. When you commit, is relevant to continue in spite of all adversities. Second, the appropriation of people as agents of local change. it is very relevant in all this project to appropriate the people to make them their own project. Maybe you have the ideas, maybe you have some support, but this is relevant that they take it at their own. And so part of the projects was to hire Haitian professionals that would be the monitors, let's say, and then to produce the training. The third element is that we train the trainees. You know, we provide the elements, we give the knowledge, and we give the community the elements and the means and the mechanism, so they can keep going further with the facilitator activities. Fourth element, that the important element is that there is a local actor. You cannot go with your cooperation and then go out of the country and you know, that was a small project. You have to leave something behind. So the local actors are very relevant. And as part of the project, we were able to form a team of Asian trainers. And so we will be able to leave a legacy on that. Of course, there were some elements and at the end of the project, and I think it was extremely successful in regarding sustainability and capacity building, and leave the different activities for the future. Some of the activities was to creation of a vegetable plantation, the project to support the production of vegetables in the village, entrepreneurship for the processing of agricultural products, and so on. So the Chile, to conclude, because there are so many good elements to hear today, the Chile fund is a government fund created by a small contribution that each international passenger using our airport in Santiago has to contribute. It's a small amount, it's the price of good coffee, let's say, at the airport, but when you see the amount of millions of people that travel at the end of each year in Chile, we can have a good contribution, a good fund to provide certain elements. And the Chilean Agency for Cooperation and International Development is keen to keep participating, in particularly, of course, in our region, in Central America, Caribbean countries, not exclusively there, but that is the more or less the natural area where we can contribute. So to conclude, thank you once again for inviting us to present what we have done. The book will have more elements and that, but as I said, these were the pillars of where we work, and it has been very successful. The Acip has already more or less 30 years of experience providing different projects all over Latin America. So I think it has been a great contribution from our side, and I am sure all the countries have appreciated. All the best, and thank you once again for this initiative.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. Thank you for introducing the very hands-on, concrete element of this project involving local communities and leaving legacy, skills, capacity to sustain this impact. And especially, you know, very good to hear this crowdfunding aspect by the passengers. South-South cooperation is every country's agenda and every people's agenda. Thank you very much. Now, I would like to welcome our next distinguished speaker, His Excellency Oumar Haila, Ambassador and Permanent Representative of Kingdom of Morocco. Ambassador will present the good practices on Desert to Power Initiative and Islamic Development Bank Moroccan Agency for Sustainable Energy Project, among many others, I'm sure, of the Morocco's contribution to South-South cooperation. Ambassador, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, dear Grace Wang. Morocco welcomes the launch of the publication on good practices in South-South and Triangular cooperation in the least developed countries, from the Istanbul Program of Action to achieving sustainable and resilient development. I would like to seize this opportunity to congratulate and thank all actors involved in the preparation and finalization of this high quality and substantive publication. Special thanks to the UN Office for South-South Cooperation, UNCDF, UN OHRLLS, and Qatar Fund for Development. This launch comes at a significant and timely moment, one day before the adoption of the milestone Doha Program of Action. This publication and its 80 contained good practices demonstrate the strong and significant potential of South-South and triangular cooperation in LDCs to attain the objectives of supporting national and regional development efforts, strengthening institutional and technical capacities, and improving the exchange of experience and know-how. I would like also to seize this opportunity to reiterate the long-standing support of the Kingdom of Morocco to the least developed countries. My country has developed strong cooperation with LDCs, especially in Africa, based on the principle of solidarity, which is at the heart of the Moroccan strategy for South-South cooperation. This was translated through a large range of initiatives, projects, and sharing of experience in many fields led by Moroccan Agency for International Cooperation and with the cooperation of other key stakeholders. I'm glad to present in brief and concise manner 2 examples of best practices included in this publication as contribution from Morocco. First is Desert to Power Initiative, 2019-2030. The Moroccan Agency for Sustainable Energy and the African Development Bank Group have joined forces to give life to this initiative with the support of other financial partners, such as l'Agence Française de Développement, Power Africa, European Commission, International Renewable Energy Agency, Africa 50, ACWA Power, the Tony Blair Institute, and the Green Climate Fund. This initiative put the SDG 9 implementation at its heart. It aims mainly to expand the expansion of electricity supply through renewable energy in the Sahel region, namely the G5 Sahel countries, Burkina Faso, Chad, Mali, Mauritania, and Niger, all of which are LDC. It also paved the road to achieving other development goals, Goal 8, Goal 9, and Goal 13. It also contributes to the Istanbul Program of Action, APOR, priority areas 1, 2, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Mazen's expertise in renewable energy combined with the operational experience of the African Development Bank has all clearly opened the way towards strengthening integration in Sahel region, focusing on the transfer of technology, capacity building, technical assistance, and project development in renewable energies and resource mobilization, with the main focus to develop renewable energy technologies adapted to the natural environment and specific energy needs of the G5. The second initiative is also a direct contribution to SDG 7 implementation, which is Islamic Development Bank, Moroccan Agency for Sustainable Energy, Renewable Energy Project. The Moroccan Agency for Sustainable Energy, Mazen, and the Islamic Development Bank launched a joint initiative to develop strategic renewable energy project in Africa, with the special focus on least developed countries, such as Burkina Faso, Djibouti, Niger, Senegal, and Togo, along with non-LDCs such as Cote d'Ivoire and Gabon. This initiative aims to improve electricity production from renewable sources on the continent, notably through technical and financial support to projects in IDB member countries. This would be characterized through, first, facilitating the development of competitive and solid energy production infrastructure. 2, contributing to increasing the share of green energy in the recipient countries. 3, helping new renewable energy to leverage the experience accumulated by Mazen and allow extensive cooperation in the field of energy between Morocco and other African countries. By this remark, have given a short overview of both initiatives. I invite you to look at the report for further details on this and the other very interesting and important 80 initiatives. In conclusion, I would like to reiterate that the Kingdom of Morocco remains fully prepared to work alongside all development partners to contribute to South and Triangular cooperation to deliver developed countries sustainable development and to achieve a sustainable and resilient recovery from COVID-19 pandemic. I thank you very much, dear Grace.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ambassador, for your excellent sharing of this knowledge, focusing on energy, sustainable energy. This way, this partnership are truly transformational. Thank you very much. Now let's move on to listen to our next distinguished speaker. I would like to invite His Excellency Kennedy, Ambassador and Permanent Representative of the United Republic of Tanzania. Ambassador will present the good practice on cross-border market for transforming the local economy and empowering women in Tanzania. Ambassador Gaston, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Honorable Nance Tembo, Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Malawi and the Chair of the LDC, Honorable Acip Steiner, UNDP Administrator, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. I'm delighted to participate in this special launch of the publication by the South and Triangular Cooperation. More important, on the occasion where it is almost few hours before the Doha program of action as we move from the Istanbul program of action. Excellencies, women entrepreneurs continue to face a number of challenges, including lack of access to markets for their product. And for Tanzania, gender equality and the women empowerment issues are among the key priorities of the current government under Her Excellency Samia Suluhu Hassan, the President of the United Republic of Tanzania. And one of the best local example that I want to share with you today is about the cross-border markets. As Grace pointed out, that local can be international. And this is the cross-border market that was constructed across the border between Tanzania and Burundi. And this cross-border market was constructed in the district called Kakonko district, which is one of the 6 administrative regions in that region. And this place, or the border, used to be a traditional economic corridor between the two countries for many years. However, it remained unhygienic with insufficient facilities to really promote economic cooperation, and more important, to give facilities that will enable women to actively participate in activities. And therefore, in addressing this issue, United Nations Capital Development Fund, UNCDF, launched a program and supported the Kakonko district government to expand and upgrade the existing market by developing a modern cross-border market in a village called Muhange village. Now, the project was funded, among others, by the UN Women, UNDP, and UNCDF itself. And it was implemented by the district government with close supervision of UNCDF and other local partners. Now, through the cross-border market, a lot of issues have been addressed. Namely, first is the Sustainable Development Goals #1 in terms of the no poverty, but also addressing the issue relating to gender equality, which is again the Sustainable Development Goal #5. It equally touches on Istanbul Program of Action Priority Areas 2 on agriculture, food security, and rural development, but also Priority Areas 5 on human and social development. The new Muhange market provides a safe space for traders for both countries from Burundi and Tanzania, but also it provides a safe place for women to do their business. So the project improves access to water and sanitation, leading to health benefits for women and their communities. Among significant outcomes include the following. First, it has supported women's livelihood and security. As we speak, about 2,120 women traders have benefited from new market. And the new facilities, again, provides a storage room for women traders and also has created jobs for women during the construction phase. Second, it has provided access to water and sanitation. Today, 67% of 3,000 members of the local community are women. And all these women have already been able to be provided with the necessary facilities, particularly in terms of the access to water and sanitation. Third, there has been women ownership and leadership within the structure and the governance of the new market. The Muhange Market Special Purpose Vehicle Board of Directors includes 25% of female members or members who are female. And therefore, this helps very much to enable women to participate in decision-making bodies and processes. Fourth, there has been increase in revenue for local government and central government. Kakongo District Council now generates more revenues, and in fact, it intends now to build even more markets based on that market. But furthermore, fifth, the market also plays an important role in enhancing border security between the two countries, which is again one of the priorities in the context of the East African community, where Burundi and Tanzania also belongs. Now, in concluding my remarks, let me reiterate that the Muhange market was designed to address structural gender inequalities by prioritizing women's economic empowerment, their leadership role, participation in market governance, ownership of stalls, and as well as safety and security, but also access to water and sanitation. And the project takes into account women as individual workers in the community, but also as members of the household, as caregivers, and as traders who are playing a crucial role in the local community. The holistic approach of the project provides an important lessons that can be replicated as a model for gender-responsive cross-border markets in the least developed countries. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. Thank you for presenting this excellent case, especially with focus on empowerment of women. And South-South cooperation, as you gave the example, can be very impactful, addressing cross-border issues where one single country cannot address alone through neighborhood initiatives, sub-regional mechanisms, and regional integration efforts. Thank you very much for sharing that aspect. Now I have the honor to invite His Excellency Mohammed Koba, Ambassador and Deputy Permanent Representative, Permanent Mission of the Republic of Indonesia. Ambassador will present the good practice on capacity building program on enhancing the development of small and medium industry. Of course, among many other good practices that Indonesia has. Ambassador, the floor is yours.
Thank you, moderator. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to you all from New York. And thank you for the opportunity to share with you some of Indonesia's experiences in implementing South-South and triangular cooperation. But first of all, congratulations on the launching of this publication. As you know, Indonesia has consistently contributed to the publication over the years. We see that this is a good way to catalog and disseminate SSTC programs, completed or ongoing by us, the developing countries. It is also proof that the South is able to walk the talk by strengthening and mutually supporting each other's growth. This year, the publication has chosen a special theme on LDCs. We see it as timely because tomorrow we will formally adopt the Doha Program of Action for the LDCs. Let me, at this opportunity, also reiterate Indonesia's consistent support to LDCs in their efforts to graduate from the LDC list, particularly in ensuring that the graduation process runs smoothly in order to avoid the newly graduated LDCs back into the list. Excellencies, colleagues, we shared 3 articles this year. First on teaching factory program. The second one is on training on strategic partnership with Muslim religious leaders. And the last one is on capacity building program to support SMEs development. Allow me to focus on capacity building for SMEs. SMEs, or more precisely micro, small, and medium enterprises, MSMEs, play an important role in developing economies, including in Indonesia. Just to give you an idea, MSMEs employed more than 90% of Indonesia's labor force and contributes more than half of our economy of $1 trillion. There are more than 60 million units of SMEs in Indonesia. It is an interesting case because during the pandemic, there has been an improvement of SMEs in Indonesia, especially in food and beverages sector, fashion, craft, and furniture products. At the same time, our government provided incentive and encouraged SMEs to utilize the digital platform by launching SMEs digital market. In our G20 presidency, MSMEs empowerment is also one of our priority issues, including their access to financial resources, digital market, and participation of women. Going back to the capacity building program for MSMEs that I mentioned earlier, it is conducted by the Indonesian Ministry of Industry in cooperation with the Ministry of State Secretariat and supported by Colombo Plan, involving participants from 18 countries, including from Afghanistan, Bangladesh, Bhutan, Indonesia, Laos PDR, Myanmar, and Nepal. The project has been running since 2016, and during the COVID-19 pandemic, the program was offered virtually. So far, there has been positive feedback on the program. One important aspect of this program is that at the end of the program, the participants are expected to create an action plan to address the issues they face in the respective countries. By doing so, we hope that it helps implement the knowledge and experience they learned during the program. Since we have a very limited time, we might not be able to discuss it in detail. However, if you are interested to know more about the program, we can definitely connect you with the office in charge of that. Finally, thank you again for sharing some of Indonesia's experience on SSTC. We stand ready to advance cooperation in an inclusive manner. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador, for your consistent contribution to the knowledge base on South-South cooperation. And for this very important case you presented, indeed, SMEs are critical to energize economy and society, especially in the context of COVID-19 recovery. Thank you very much for sharing this invaluable knowledge. Now let me welcome Minister Narupam Devnath, Permanent Mission of Bangladesh to UN. Bangladesh is also co-facilitator of BPOA. Minister Nas will have already shared 4 good practices included in this publication from Bangladesh. Today, his focus will be on skills for employment investment program. So Minister Nas, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Moderator, for giving me the floor. Honorable Foreign Minister of Malawi, UNDP Administrator, Mr. Achim Steiner, Director General of Qatar Fund for Development, Excellencies, colleagues. I thank the UN Office of South-South Cooperation, UNCDF, UN OHRLS, and Qatar Fund for Development for organizing this important event for launching the publication on good practices in South-South and triangular cooperation in LDCs from the Istanbul Programme of Action to achieving sustainable and resilient development. The launching of this publication could not have been timelier. The first part of the 5th United Nations Conference on the LDCs is scheduled to take place tomorrow. As you are aware, the permanent representative of Bangladesh, Ambassador Rabah Fatima, and Ambassador Robert Ray of Canada co-chaired the preparatory committee meetings of the LDC-5 conference, which culminated in the Doha Programme of Action for the next decade of development of the LDCs. We look forward to its smooth adoption tomorrow. The Doha Programme of Action identified South-South cooperation as an important enabler for achieving the targets and commitments across all its 6 thematic areas. It recognizes South-South cooperation as a complement to North-South cooperation, particularly with regard to technical assistance, sharing of best practices, especially in the areas of productive capacity building, infrastructure, energy, science and technology, trade, investment, etc. Excellencies, colleagues, in Bangladesh, we consider South-South and triangular cooperation as a vital driver of our development. In the BAPA plus 40 conference, our foreign minister proposed to establish a forum of the ministers of development, of finance, and of foreign ministers of the South to take forward our collaborative work. He also announced setting up a South-South Knowledge and Innovation Center in Dhaka. The center will aim to co-create solutions to address the pressing challenges of the South, and that includes technology transformation, reaping the benefits of 4IR, sharing innovative practices, leveraging STI, and SDGs implementation. It is heartening to note that the publication, which has been launched today, has incorporated 4 good practices for Bangladesh, which are: number 1, building resilience of climate vulnerable farmers in Bangladesh through learning and applying new knowledge in aquaculture. Number 2, an evidence-based platform for policy and decision making. Number 3, towards a skilled workforce. And number 4, bringing prosperity and empowerment to women in Bangladesh through blended finance investment. And I particularly thank UNDP Administrator for highlighting one of our good practices in the field of ICT in his statement. In fact, I was very keen to present all the good practices enlisted in the report today, but our time is limited, so I'll focus on the Skills for Employment Investment Program, SEIP, which was launched in 2014 with the support of the Asian Development Bank and Bangladesh government, of course. The overall objectives of this program is to increase the qualitative and quantitative capacity of public and private sector training institutions all across Bangladesh. The program supports training providers from different vocational institutions in meeting industry skills requirements. It is implementing a vocational trainer development program and developing skills assessment, certificate, and quality assurance system. Activities cover the whole of Bangladesh through both public and private sector training providers. The program targets key priority economic growth sectors identified by the government to improve entry-level job skills, as well as to improve the skills of the existing workforce to bring them into into line with industry standards. 11 priority sectors have been identified to adopt a demand-driven approach with effective input from industry skills councils, employers associations, and course employers. The courses are regularly reviewed and updated in compliance with industry standards, government policies, and regulations. In terms of its alignment with the 2030 Agenda and the Istanbul Program of Action, this program has been contributing to SDG 4 and SDG 8, as well as the IPOA priority areas 1 and 5. Over the past 5 or 6 years, the program has had good impacts in skilling new entrants and upskilling existing workforce to enhance the productivity and growth of priority industry sectors in Bangladesh. Since the program is being implemented in partnership with private sector, it could demonstrate good results in terms of establishing meaningful link between education, skills, and employment. And this is actually the key strength to its and for its success. Our transformative development journey has pivoted on many such innovative programs and projects. We wish to share our experiences and lessons learned with the LDCs and other developing countries through such platforms, and also benefit from the good practices of other countries of the South. And to that end, we look forward to utilizing the publication on good practices as a rich source of knowledge and experience. I'll rest it here, Madam Moderator. Thank you once again for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Nas, for not only presenting this practice, but we know Bangladesh has many important initiatives utilizing South-South cooperation and contributing to that. Thank you very much. Now I would like to move on to our last but not least very important speaker. I would like to invite Dr. Siku Jabi, First Deputy Governor, Central Bank of the Gambia, to present the good practices on economic recovery of women SMEs through credit guarantee schemes. So, Dr. Jabi, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Your Excellencies, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. I thank the organizers and also UNCDF that we are working closely to support us in this ACGS credit guarantee scheme program for our women and youths in the country. Financial markets for SMEs are characterized by market failures and imperfections. Up to 70% of the formal SMEs in emerging and developing countries are either underserved or unserved by the banking sector, with the resultant credit gap estimated to be close to $1 trillion US. Credit guarantee scheme are a common form of government interventions to unlock finance for enterprises. It is estimated nearly 100 of all the countries in the world. About half of all countries in the world have ACGS for SMEs, and the number is growing. Its credit guarantee scheme provides a third-party credit risk mitigation to lenders through absorption of a portion of their lenders' losses on the loans made to SMEs in case of default. We focus on four key areas: legal and regulatory framework, governance, corporate governance and risk management, operational framework, monitoring and evaluation. The importance of SME financing in the economies of developing countries has been extensively researched by development economics literature. SMEs contribute immensely to socio-economic development in terms of job creation, incomes, foreign exchange through exports, provision of livelihoods for the vast number of people who depend on it. Despite the SMEs as springboard for industrialization and economic development in most of our developing countries, it is paradoxically continue to face acute lack of formal finance, particularly from the formal banking sector. Additionally, youths in the Gambia form 64% of the population, 40% of the entrepreneurs, yet 77% remain financially excluded due to lack of collateral. This leads to the inequalities to access finance and control over resources for women and youths. It is argued the controversy in the empirical literature on financing decisions of SMEs is based on the failure to take into account their degree of information asymmetrics enterprise capabilities and needs at specific stages of their life cycle. We've seen the developmental role of government in ASEAN, the innovative lending technologies for financial intermediaries through credit guarantee schemes, group lending, risk sharing, matching grants can be instrumental in addressing the SME persistent financial difficulties to enhance overall socio-economic development. The importance attached to SMEs in the economy is crucial, making their formal credit access and equity vital to support growth. And looking at it, most of the troubles around SME financing has been due to asymmetric information, demand side constraints, supply side constraints, seasonality in agriculture, and informality in operations and structure of actors, lack of products and services to mitigate risk, lack of adequate suitable collaterals, and the bank's limited knowledge in agricultural financing to employ innovative products and services to reach out to most of these farmers, and weak financial and institutional developments to boost inclusive growth. Looking at the solution, we are working closely with most of our partners, and the fact that the CGS is so vital for us in the Gambia. In the sub-region, Ghana, Nigeria, loan deposit ratio in the banking sector reached 60% for Ghana, 80% in Nigeria, due to the availability of incentives, that's the agricultural credit guarantee scheme and the guarantee scheme on the SME lending, risk sharing, relative to 18.46% in the Gambia, very low compared to our sister countries in the region. This is as at end December 2021. This was the importance of credit guarantee scheme in locking resources to the private sector, particularly SMEs, in particular to support economic growth. Not to reinvent the wheel, the Central Bank of the Gambia, in collaboration with UNCDF, agreed on an MOU to pilot the credit guarantee scheme with an initial funding support of $200,000 to increase access to finance for women and youth entrepreneurs. Experience has shown that in these countries, CGS was able to drive SME credit growth through inclusive allocation of resources towards women economic empowerment in contributing to sustainable development goals, SDG 5, gender equality, and also 8, decent work and economic growth. It is expected this pilot phase will reach out to many SMEs in both rural and urban areas with a gradual upgrade in funding limits and sectors. This will create more jobs, increase incomes, and visibility in the market. The Y Credit Guarantee Scheme, micro small enterprises in emerging developing countries require working capital support to bridge the financing gap between the suppliers and the intermediary services, access to credit lines for liquidity facility during peak periods, and long-term funding for financing investments. Entrepreneurs' equity is not often sufficient, and it is raised in the family or close relatives or external source through supplier credit and other informal lenders. These financing are often limited, expensive, and unsustainable. The difficulty to provide collaterals and meeting stringent lending requirements, business plan, bank statements, constrain SMEs to secure bank lending. As a result of the collateral inadequate capital constraints, access to credit is made difficult, if not impossible, for many small businesses, leaving viable projects unfunded. We envisage benefits of credit guarantee scheme as we pick up. Currently, we are doing, we completed our memorandum of understanding, and we are also completed our manuals to implement the CGS. This will further go to de-risk the lending to agriculture and tourism sectors to leverage on financial institutions' liquidity, greater participation of financial institutions in the credit guarantee scheme, improve access to finance, the growth of lending to agriculture and tourism value chains, promotion of financial inclusion to the excluded women and youth entrepreneurs, reduce risk profile to impact on lending interest rates, and reduction in non-performing loans, quick turnaround time for loan applications, capacity building, and skills development. To conclude, the importance of CGS cannot be overemphasized as it unlocks resources to the underserved and unserved SMEs in developing countries. Loan guarantees can enable enterprises to get loans that are otherwise unavailable to them. With repeated lending and maturity, loan guarantees can open the door for subsequent lending without guarantees. I thank you for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jabi, to bring the important financing aspect Now we conclude the high-level panel sharing all the good practices. Due to the number of speakers already listed, we will not be able to open the floor for more speakers today, but we welcome more exchanges of such knowledge through our online platform, South-South Galaxy. We also put into the agenda a brief informal chat, a fireside chat with the fire and the light already ignited by all the distinguished speakers. Now we actually have a very brief account, a conversation between Dr. Deb Bhattacharya as our special speaker for this chat to share his perspective on how to leverage South-South and triangular cooperation to deliver tangible benefits to LDCs, especially addressing specific challenges in LDCs. Dr. Deb is a non-resident fellow at the Center of Global Development, CDG, and a distinguished fellow at the Center for Policy Dialogue, CPD. He has been leading a number of global studies focusing on impact of COVID-19 on LDCs, South-South cooperation, and incentives for LDC graduation. Actually, Dr. Deb also champions think tank networks in the Global South, Southern Voice. Dr. Deb serves as a steering committee member of the South-South Global Thinkers Initiative, jointly supported by UNOSSE and UNDP. We know from the BAPA Plus 40 outcome document, we encourage partnership with research institutions and think tanks to deepen the research and analysis on South-South cooperation to inform policy making. So we are very honored to have Dr. Deb here, and also Mr. David Jackson, Director of Local Transformative Finance Practice, UNCDF. I know we originally planned for 15 minutes, but now we only have maybe 6 to 10 minutes, and I know the two very distinguished speaker, and you will be able to manage it. I leave it to you. Dr. Deb and David, please.
Thank you very much indeed for this opportunity. And I don't know how warm it is where you are, but it's pretty chilly here. So it does feel like a fireside chat, and really appreciate the opportunity to interview Dr. Deb with some of the critical questions that I think emerge from the evidence we've seen in this report. And one of those, and a number of speakers have referred to it in different ways, is that of productive capacity. So that's a key element of what a lot of these initiatives are trying to do. And as we know, the target in the Doha Program of Action is for LDCs to graduate from that status. But one can graduate statistically, and then one can graduate meaningfully. If one graduates statistically, one is just not quite an LDC, but still suffering from those same structural constraints. So I'd like to ask you to reflect on that, Dr. Deb, if you don't mind, and also maybe add into your reflection and ask two questions in one. Some of the more recent disruptions to the normal development path that have been thrown our way by COVID, by the fact that LDCs are the most rapidly urbanizing countries, and issues like climate. But how, in short, can LDCs aim to graduate sustainably rather than just graduate from LDC status, in perhaps applying some of the lessons learned during this presentation, during this report? Thank you.
Dr. Deb, you
may be on mute.
You're muted. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I thought I'm on the fireside chat already, so I didn't unmute myself. I don't know about the fireside chat, but really the fire is in our heart. And when we talk about South-South cooperation, it really ignites very strongly. So thank you for this privilege and honor of giving me this space. Madam Minister, and also the excellencies, ambassadors, and colleagues and partners, pleasure. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, whatever is suitable for you. So the first question, Mr. Jackson, which you have put, is that about the numerical dimensions of achieving the graduation criteria, whereas there may be inherent structural weaknesses continuing with these countries, and how do you really deal with it? So as I have to defend the criteria because I'm a member of the United Nations Committee for Development Policy, which essentially endorses the graduation list. So I take responsibility for that. And I say that the graduation, it fits in with the graduation criteria. But in the recent past at CDP, we have also put in major macroeconomic indicators, some of the structural indicators, and also for the graduating LDCs, we are also looking into some of the trigger indicators, which may roll back some of the successes or may, in unfortunate circumstances, they may glide back into the LDC group. So we are conscious about the limitations of the 3 graduation criteria. But having said that, there are inherent problems with many of the small and island developing states in the Pacific. So for them, there is a Samoa pathway. So beyond the LDCs, because they have overlapping vulnerabilities. So with the overlapping vulnerabilities, we will have to look into those kind of international programs. And if you look at the Doha Program of Action, or for that matter, its predecessor, the Istanbul Program of Action, there we talk about that all other international programs has to be linked to it. So if you have the Doha Program of Action, it does not mean that LDCs are not beneficiary or should not be accessing other development programs which are internationally negotiated. So that is, you have to see the coherence between all those things. But having said that, we all understand LDC graduation is a milestone on a long road, on a long journey. It is not the end point. So the point of productive capacity building, having economic diversification, having more retained value addition within the country, all these things are very important and will remain. My point to that is that these issues have to be built into the smooth graduation strategy within that. And if I link it up with your the end part of your question, you have multiple questions. Indeed, you have packaged it well. And so the issue of the recent turbulences, particularly the pandemic, how it is going to affect on that. So if from the CDP point of view, from our own research, and I do thank UN Office for South-South Cooperation for giving me the opportunity to write paper that what had been the South-South cooperation during the COVID period, and before that, how the South-South cooperation can support LDC graduation. What we see over here is that on these issues is that we need to have a much more clearer idea about how South-South cooperation can fit in with the LDC issues and the graduation issues in particular. We strongly think that there are opportunities for South-South cooperation to expand into the post-graduation phase, like duty-free, quota-free market access that's provided by India and China. And as European Union is considering it, should be going there forward. It should be along with the omnibus proposal with the WTO currently being considered, including the TRIPS public health issues over there. It should be also being supporting the other EBA GSP plus issues which are being talked about. All these things are there. At the same time, on the trade front, and many of the LDCs are now concluding free trade agreement, mega regional trade agreement. Over there also, the larger southern countries, more mature southern countries or advanced developing countries can provide special privileges and market access and other issues to the LDCs over there. Let me come also on to the issue of access to concessional finance. Many of these LDCs and others are low middle income country and gradually losing the eligibility for access to concessional finance, particularly grant financing. So I think this is an opportunity for South-South cooperation to diversify on the financial front, offer them more financial support on concessional ground, not suppliers credit. So that is something which we'll have to look into, including blended finance and other issues. My third point on that, on South-South cooperation, leveraging on this along with the triangular cooperation, but because most of the OECD countries, DAC countries are involved in it. The other part is intellectual property right, an issue which is very undervalued or underemphasized, because many of these countries will have to take on responsibility for being compliant on intellectual property right aspects. And South-South cooperation is very critical in this area because some of the southern countries are not only recipient of patents and other intellectual properties, but also generator of intellectual properties. So China in particular, India along with that, Brazil, so they have generated intellectual property patent products, which can be shared with the low middle income countries within the South in this case. And that is a very critical area of knowledge transfer, technological cooperation. And this can very well move into what you have just mentioned in the area of climate action. It can go into management of unplanned urbanization, how we do with public utilities and other things. I see an immense scope for that. And I see Grace is smiling, which essentially means she wants me to shut up. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much indeed, Dr. Dev. Really appreciate you packaging answers to multiple questions into one. Thank you. And thank you very much, Grace, as well.
Thank you very much for the two fireside chat speakers. Actually, you mentioned very important dimension that DPOA should link with all other development programs. So I would hope after this fireside chat, we are invited to, or you organize, or any of the participants organize beachside chat, mountainside chat, river and lakeside chat, so that we can really bring all the important development agenda together. Thank you so much.
Grace, if you give me 10 seconds, one point I wanted to emphasize, particularly for now that OHRLS and all other colleagues are present here, and particularly the UN Office for South-South Cooperation, it is time to set up a task force to look at how the South-South cooperation can really contribute towards smooth and sustainable graduation of the LDCs. This is an under-emphasized area. It is complement to the development North-South cooperation, but I think given everything, it has acquired a great importance. Please look into it. A task force.
That is so much, Dr. Deb already gave us a topic for the next beachside chat conversation. Okay, thank you very much. Now this brings us to the closing session of today's event. I have the honor to invite His Excellency Ambassador Maria de Carmen Squelf, Ambassador and Permanent Representative of Argentina, President of the High-Level Committee on South-South Cooperation, to kindly deliver the closing remarks. Ambassador, thank you very much for your patience. We're a little bit delayed in time, but you have heard BAPA Plus 40 mentioned so many times. It's a real legacy, real milestone. Ambassador, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Excellencies, dear friends. First of all, I would like to thank the Deputy Director of the United Nations Office for South-South Cooperation, Ms. Grace Wong, and the colleague and representative of the United Nations Capital Development Fund, the Office of the United Nations High Representative for the Least Developing Countries, landlocked developing countries and small island developing state, and the Qatar Fund for Development for organizing this important event. Also, I want to extend my thanks and appreciation to the colleagues who have presented the diverse cooperation projects and good practices carried out together with the least developing countries, and which many of them are included in the publication presented today. The launch of the publication is a fact to celebrate, since it represents a clear example of the valuable contribution that South-South and triangular cooperation can have in the development of our countries. I believe that this compendium of good practices and cooperation projects managed to put into action many of the consequences agreed in multilateral instances, such as the BAPA plus 40, and in particular as regards the priorities of the least developing countries in Istanbul Program of Action. It is important to remind that the commitments contained in the BAPA plus 40 outcome document constitute a true roadmap for the South-South and triangular cooperation. In this respect, I really believe that the publication responds to one of the main objectives highlighted by our countries in the BAPA Plus 40, where we emphasize on the need to the United Nations Development System assist developing countries in building the human and institutional capacity needed to formulate and implement national development policies, including the sharing of good practices and experiences from the South, especially with the least developed countries. Likewise, this compendium of projects and good practices is a valuable tool to make visible the technical capacity of the different institutions that appear in it, which, since our countries have similar development trajectories and challenges, could be replicated throughout and across the global South and generate new partnerships for mutual collaboration. This demonstrates that South-South cooperation has become an effective tool for the exchange of assistance between developing countries with a growing impact on their economic and social development. Dear colleagues, excellencies, my country, Argentina, has permanently stated in commitment to assistance and support for the least developing countries. Many of the international cooperation projects implemented by my country has sought to contribute to the timely, effective, and full execution of the Istanbul Programme of Action, as well as to collaborate with the implementation of all those measures, initiatives, associations, and actions that will facilitate this group of countries the coordinated application and consist follow-up and monitoring of say program of action and the 2030 agenda. We are one day away from the adoption of a new roadmap for the development of the least developing countries, the Doha Program of Action. In it, a set of development priorities have been agreed upon that are intended to be achieved over the next 10 years. The elaboration of this new program of action has not been unrelated to the uncertain international context that the world is going through, which has become even more complex for developing countries. While the least developing countries have made considerable progress in the field of sustainable development, the COVID-19 pandemic has further worsened the economic and social situation in low-income and high-debt countries. This situation puts at risk a decade of development progress. Faced with this challenges panorama, my country reiterates that it is necessary and urgent to continue guaranteeing robust external support to the least developed countries where South-South and triangular cooperation have a key role to play in achieving the provision of the future Doha agenda. However, in a world where all developing countries have seen exacerbated their structural gaps, it does not seem wise to think that South-South cooperation supported only by our countries can lead by itself to the achievement of the SDGs. For that reason, we understand that the engagement of the diverse multi-stakeholders in the architecture of international cooperation plays the role towards equitable and sustained development. The financing of for the international cooperation is facing certain limitations that can be overcome through a scheme of joint work between the state, the United Nations system, civil society, and the private sector. Likewise, I would like to recognize the effort developed by the United Nations Office for South-South cooperation in promoting the principle of this modality of international cooperation in the follow-up and execution of cooperation program and needed operational activities of the United Nations to address the particular challenges of developing countries. Dear colleagues, to conclude, I would like to emphasize that the world we are living demands more and better cooperation. Working together and under a spirit of solidarity will be the only way to advance in a sustainable recovery and to achieve the 2030 agenda, leaving no one behind. I hope that with the adoption of the Doha Program of Action and having the PABA plus 40 guidelines as a framework, the South-South and triangular cooperation will be revitalized. I am confident that initiatives like this publication will help us establish the strong knowledge base needed to build inclusive South-South cooperation as we embark on the Program of Action 2022-2031. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. We look forward to your continued strong leadership to the high-level committee on South-South cooperation, and we will follow the guidance to move forward even stronger on South-South cooperation. Thank you. Thank you, Ambassador.
Thank you.
Yes, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we noticed that His Excellency Antoine Lekpa Antoine Babani, Honorable Minister of Agriculture, Livestock and Rural Development of Togo, has just joined us, and he's here to share with us good practices on incentive mechanism for agricultural financing based on risk sharing. Although we are already at the end of the event, you know, I think we have over 130 participants. It would be worth to have, you know, the great honor to have the minister to share with us briefly, 3 to 5 minutes, the good practices in Togo. So, Your Excellency, the Honorable Minister, the floor is yours. Before we have our distinguished colleague from UNOHRS to give the last words to close the event. So, Minister, the floor is yours. Yes, we can hear you actually.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes.
Okay. Bonjour à tout le monde. Donc, j'interviens.
Good morning, everybody. I'm going to intervene in the name of the Republic of Congo on the financial mechanism, with all our apology for our late intervention. If you can give me the opportunity, I'm going to go fast and also to give the key points. And I want to start thank the United Nations agency, Your Excellency and colleague. In the name of the Togo government, I would like to express our gratitude for this opportunity to be part of the publication launch event in terms of the agricultural good practices in the cooperation South-South and triangular. Your distinguished, it's very important And it's very important that why on the roadmap of the government in the agricultural sector, we have highlighted the importance of employability, and we have employed more than 60% of the population in the internal, the rural agriculture. And there is a high potential in the development of land of 3.6 million of land, or 45% who have been allocated to the agriculture. And there is also the availability of 10 million of cube of land to be exploited in the potential, in the economic potential that needs to be financed by the bank sector. In 2017, only few loans has been able to be allocated, and also the Togolese agriculture and also the small local entrepreneur who need the accessibility to resources and also finance. In this, in the light of the goal of the financement of this sector, that the bank, the African Bank of Development, bring an incentive. Donc, it's a NIRSAL and a program to address solution, to address the solution of obstacle in the agricultural sector. In 2018, we have worked on facilitating the access to the agricultural development by ensuring the promoter of the agriculture the access to the sector. With your permission, we have the representative of MIFA who is with us, attending this event with us today. We would like to thank her for the 4 years of support. And I'd also like to thank you for the time and the opportunity. Thank you. I would like to give the floor to the Director General of MIFA for a few words.
Thank you very much, Minister. For the time, I think we can only give 1 minute for NIPAD speaker, just to quickly introduce. We will dive into the knowledge in the publication and have more dialogue with you all. 1 minute maybe for the NIPAD speaker.
Okay. DG MIFA.
Okay, because of the technical issue, we can leave the NIPAD speaker after our UNOHR-LS colleague, because he will need to attend another meeting just in 2 minutes. Now, maybe we first invite Mr. Adenibele Sandadohi, from the Chief of UNOHR-LS, for his closing remarks. And then after that, if our NIPAD colleague is connected, another 1 to 2 minutes. Thank you very much. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very pleased to make the closing remarks on behalf of all collaborating the UN organizations and entities who prepared this publication on South-South cooperation. The launching of this publication is taking place on the eve of milestone event for the least developed countries, many presenters mentioned before. A new program of action for LDCs, the Doha program of action for the decade 2022 and 2031 will be adopted tomorrow at the part 1 of the 5th UN Conference for LDCs. The Secretary General of the United Nations, Deputy Minister of Qatar, the host country of the conference, and the President of Malawi, the chair of the LDCs group, will open the historic conference tomorrow to adopt this outcome document. The draft and the Doha Program of Action is an ambitious action-oriented development blueprint for the world's most vulnerable countries. It embodies a new generation of renewed and strengthened commitment for the sustainable development and resilient development of LDCs. The central focus of the new program is to achieve rapid, sustainable, and inclusive recovery from the pandemic, build resilience against future shocks, eradicate extreme poverty, and achieve the SDGs and sustainable graduation from the LDCs category. Enhanced global support is therefore indispensable for the LDCs to attain these targets. The South-South cooperation has been an integral part of the global partnership for sustainable development, as exemplified by the good practices showcased in this publication. South-South cooperation played an important role in the implementation of the Istanbul Program of Action for LDCs. For Doha program, South-South cooperation is expected to play even greater role in increasing the share of LDCs in international trade, bridging gaps in infrastructure development, energy, and the science and technology, providing financial and technical support, and enhancing the institutional and human capacity of LDCs. Ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, the publication on good practice in South-South and triangular cooperation in LDCs is therefore very timely. From the Istanbul priorities to Doha commitments, the successful experiences presented in this publication will undoubtedly inspire LDCs and their development partners from South and UN system to strengthen South-South cooperation in the years to come. To conclude, I would like to once again congratulate the UN Office for South-South Cooperation, UNCDF, the Qatar Fund for Development on excellent collaborative work. My office, UN OCHA LLS, is proud to be part of this partnership. I would like to thank the generous financial support from the Qatar Fund for Development and the contribution from all UN organizations involved. It is particularly worth mentioning that a French volume of this publication will be available thanks to the generous support from the UNCDF. I would also like to thank the colleagues who worked so hard to deliver this excellent product for their tireless efforts and commitment and quality of work. I'm sure this publication will become a valuable source of reference for all stakeholders in support of LDC's sustainable development and resilient recovery. The publication is a solid demonstration of what a genuine partnership can deliver for LDCs. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much. I know that several others are trying to get more opportunities to exchange and dialogue with all. Today, we have already utilized our currency of time. So I have to regret that we won't be able to open the floor, but we will continue this conversation, organizing specific thematic, regional, or all different kind of conversations, linking this development agenda and supporting this very important modality, complementary but impactful, South-South and triangular cooperation for LDCs and for development agenda overall. Thank you very much. Thank you, Excellencies, distinguished speakers, and all participants for your support today. Have a good day, good evening, and thank you. The
Thank
meeting is
you.
adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you, Excellencies.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. And Aristad, sorry, we cannot give you more time this time. We will organize a special dialogue with you on the important work of NAPAD and on South-South cooperation and on the regional support. Thank you very much. Bye, colleagues.